G'day, and welcome to my review of Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm going through my vinyl record collection to determine whether an LP deserves to stay in the collection or get put in the bin. To me, this is where ELP peaked as a band, with this album being their most solid throughout. Every ELP release has their faults, but Brain Salad Surgery has the least, in my opinion. A quick note before we look at my copy closely: this album artwork is sick. It is so ominous and so striking to look at. Anyway, this pressing is a US press from 1977. Unfortunately, my copy is not one that splits down the middle. Most copies actually open from the middle to reveal a second picture underneath without the skull in front. In fact, the back cover of my copy is what would be behind the skull normally. The jacket visually looks very good, just has the beginning of a slight seam split at the bottom. The slot where the record goes is a little bit bent, but it's not a huge deal. It comes with a very interesting looking poster design, with all three members having portraits of themselves behind a circular window with the album cover? Yeah, I don't know either, but oh well. The LP looks near mint visually, with barely a scratch in sight. ELP albums always seem odd to me, but that oddness is what makes them interesting. Brain Salad Surgery goes from ballads to ragtime to epic prog rock and even a prog cover of a hymn. The different styles that the album goes through is very ELP, but it works really well and works the best in my opinion on Brain Salad Surgery. However, the meat and potatoes of this album is through the half-an-hour epic called Carnival 9. The piece ebbs and flows between three different parts called impressions, with the second part being all instrumental. This for me is my favourite impression of the three, closely followed by the third impression. The whole epic is great, but those are the highlights for me. My pressing of Brain Salad Surgery sounds fantastic. There's a tiny bit of crackling in between songs and really quiet passages, but you can barely even hear it once the songs get going. The part of this pressing that surprises me the most though is how good the bass response is. Greg Lake's parts sound so clear on this pressing, especially in Carnival 9, particularly in the climax of the third impression. Everything else sounds really solid, but the bass to me is what stood out the most. If you're interested in getting the same pressing as me, it is extremely affordable on Discogs. The only downside being is that it doesn't open up in the middle, like the original pressings do. For some reason, every copy I've ever seen in Australia is always in dogshit condition, hence why I haven't upgraded to a copy with that opening down the middle. In terms of sound quality, I can't really comment on the earlier presses, but ELP have done a lot of represses in the last 10 years or so. Any quiet pressings would be the way to go if you struggle to find a decent condition copy like I have. To conclude, this pressing of Brain Salad Surgery is a great sounding one. The only criticism is the cover, but you don't listen to the cardboard that the record comes in, so it's not really that big of a deal. Overall, this pressing is definitely staying in the collection. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. We'll see you again soon. A quick note before we look at my copy. This album artwork is sick. Oops, wrong way.